All right. We will call the meeting to order at 5:30. Reading the district's promise statement. We promise to provide a supportive environment where unique learning experiences empower all for their chosen life adventure. Are there any additional items for the agenda? If not, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda.
That's Tim Burke. Do we have a second? That's Tim Johnson. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Recognition of visitors and open forum. We don't have anybody signed up for this meeting. Reports and presentations. We'll go to, we don't have student representatives here, so we'll go to 6B committee reports. Do we have any?
I don't. I just want to remind board members we have a buildings and grounds meeting. Your mic. Good. Thanks. We have a buildings and grounds meeting after this meeting. And then we probably are going to schedule 2 more in the near future. We do have a student success committee. I know we just previously talked about 712 ELA curriculum adoption, and that's one of the tasks that's in the board policy that goes through that committee because it's made up of board members and community members and staff. So we need to adopt it before next year. So probably in May, we're going to have a meeting with that group so we can show that committee with the research that we've done, the trials and pilots that we've done, and then bring that to the board probably for the May meeting. And then we're probably gonna have a finance committee meeting. My plan, talking with Matt Moline, our business manager, is possibly have a finance committee meeting before our next work session. So then at the work session, we can present sort of a draft fiscal year 22 budget for the board to consider. Budget doesn't have to be approved until June, but just to give some people some time to think about it. Next one is me.
So was that your, was
That
that
was
part
the
of your
committee,
superintendent?
yes.
Okay, so superintendent report then.
Here we go. Just to, I'll go down this list quick, and you can, stop me if you have questions. But we did end up buying Chromebook, do the 4-year. We did purchase them outright, buy insurance for 4 years, and we were around that $300,000 mark, and we used all ESSER2 funds for that. And we did get the touchscreen, which is what the teachers requested of us, and Mike Birding did an exceptional job gathering feedback, trialing it, and then working with companies to work through our South Central Service Co-op to get the best deal, as they've already have cooperative purchasing. Jeremy's done a great job with Kindergarten Roundup. We have about 50 right now, and enough for Bulldog Academy, and we're still waiting on a couple more, so we're pretty,
Wow.
yeah.
Nice.
It's awesome.
We're working out section sizes and those things, and I think we'll work through the finance committee on that too, but we're excited, and him and Joyce have done a great job reaching out to families. Student leadership, Laura Size sat in on the interviews. Again, this is where I sort of get excited that we're creating student voice. So we have 5 people that have applied, interviewed, and now are chosen to be student leaders. They're going to receive college credit PSEO class and have 1 block every day to work on student leadership. And so they're going to be board members, and they're going to oversee the high school student council and help Jeremy with developing some elementary student council and do some strategic planning action steps that we have. Super excited about this because I think whenever we can give students a voice in how our school operates and what we do around here, I think it's going to be great. So Claire Adams, Ian Barnes, Deacon Dahlberg, Zach Groh, and Kaylin Lynch are 5 people.
Quick question, are all 5, is it all 5, or do we limit it to 3, 4?
Nope, it's all 5.
Okay.
You probably won't see all 5 at every meeting because these people are highly involved in a bunch of different things. And they all have their own passions. So some of these people are like passionate about working with youth and the younger elementary. Some want us to have more school spirit and the high school level especially. And some are athlete, so it's just cool how these people have different backgrounds and have different passions. So we might have them explore those and lead some different areas.
Yeah, I'm excited. They did very well at their interviews, and I think it'll be a really neat thing for our school district.
Are they the new student representatives?
Yes.
Yes.
So these 5 will be.
So going from 2 to 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not student council representatives, though.
They're going to be
are-
their student council officers as well.
So
Yep.
so or maybe I didn't say that, not student council, but like what Danny and
Yes,
Aaron
student
Heitkamp, so
school
we're gonna
board
have
reps.
5
Well, they
coming
won't,
in here
again, they
then?
won't be 5 here every meeting. We might have 1 or 2 come to the meeting and talk to the board about what they're passionate about or what we're doing.
Okay,
So, yeah.
okay.
Yep.
Cool.
These are, yeah,
That way
5,
we can hopefully have at least one of them here every meeting.
yes.
Being that they are so busy, then maybe at least one of them can make it, so.
Site logic IQ, I'm gonna save a majority of this to the buildings and grounds report, but, or the meeting after. But they're just doing a ton of work with our FACS remodel, our life skills remodel, and then our comprehensive assessment. I had just communicated with you earlier today that they would like to schedule a meeting, and I forget what it's called. They have so many acronyms, but Facility Assessment Review, FAR, to go over everything that they've learned for all their site visits, and they'd bring their team down to discuss with the board. And I think the last time we had talked, the whole board wants to be involved in that, because sometimes they've said they've worked through board committees, and then just did an overview with the whole board later. So I thought we all want to be involved unless you think differently, so. We okay with that?
Yeah, I'm okay with that, I think.
Okay. Their timeline, and they're doing a thorough process, but yet they know that they want to be done sort of at the end of June, so you can start to make some decisions, if you want to make any for next year. Not that you have to, but you're going to have options. We've talked about fiscal year '22 budget and discussing it at our next work session. And then Sonia and Jeremy did an awesome job today, and we had Let's Smile Dental Clinic in to give free dental exams to some families. And it was the first time we've ever done it. I think, Jeremy, correct me if I'm wrong, we had about 17, 20 kids? 17 kids take advantage of it. And this was probably the first time of many times that we'll invite them back. And Sonia did a great job communicating parental consent and got that back, so. Jeremy is saying in the fall, they want to schedule 2 days instead of 1. I'm hearing in the background.
Good.
So, although that's all I have. I'll take any questions if you have any.
My only question about the Chromebooks, and I think we had kind of brought it up last time, but I didn't know if there was any further thought on if we will, since we're using the ESSER funds now, are we thinking about budgeting for the future to pay off upfront versus leasing them in the future? I didn't know if we,
That'll be a good question for our
Matt
finance
at our
committee.
finance committee, okay?
Yep. Okay.
I don't have any other questions. Anyone else?
This might be off topic, did we make a decision or talking any further of the quarantining?
Good. Hey, Scott, thank you for bringing that up. Chair, or Member Kaminsky, I should say. Yes, so hopefully you saw some communications regarding reducing the 14-day quarantine when possible, and when students meet the criteria, down to 10 days. And again, if you have a person in your household who tested positive, you can't, go down below 14 days in that situation. That comes from CDC and Department of Health. But for exposures that possibly happen at school or at community events or whatever it turns out to be, a 10-day quarantine is possible, and you got to meet certain criteria. We've set out you have to test after day 7, and you have to monitor symptoms during the 10 days and after. And, we've had a number of students take advantage of that today and shorten quarantine, and we'll be back in our buildings after a negative test in the near future. So, and this comes on recommendations of Waseca County Public Health and Department of Health. And while it's going to be more work, I think the work is definitely worth it when we consider getting kids back. And like I said, we've been in school for a month, and all the reasons I listed on the letter of this being the right time for it.
He brought up a good point, though. Did you get the letter? Because I did not.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
Nobody got it. You guys, you got it from him on Friday? He sent out a letter to all parents on the quarantine.
Did you send it out saying, look, you'll be seeing this or something? I think I got it.
I did not. I
didn't
had to have
either.
him forward it to me today, so you guys didn't get it either? So there
I
might be
didn't.
something wrong with the communication system that we need to look at to make sure everybody gets that then.
Oh, maybe I didn't.
Did you get it?
No.
Tim?
No.
Tim? No, none
Okay.
of us got it. Okay. Good to know.
What? So, yeah, so we'll look, because,
Oh, maybe I did get it in my personal, yeah.
yeah, it would have went to your family.
Yeah,
Whatever's
I didn't get it on
in campus.
mine, because I looked at both my school account and my other account, and I didn't see it anywhere, so.
So with the guidelines, the question I have is, the kids are supposed to be trying to stay 6 feet apart. They're wearing masks. So in our classrooms, in the high school, bringing the kids back, there's gonna be class periods or classes that aren't gonna be able to maintain that distance, if I'm correct. So if that's the case, and somebody, do they have to test positive? Or is it, because I was within 6 feet of Laura, that whole classroom, and Laura's husband tested positive, that whole classroom then is quarantined? Because I'm just trying to figure out then, why are we making them wear masks and try to stay 6 feet apart if we can't even physically do it? And now you're gonna have some high school kids that, you know, and I'm gonna use seniors, for example, that now may have to go home and quarantine, even though we can't even physically separate them in the classroom by the 6 feet. I also know that CDC guideline says you can go down to 3 feet, you know, for that. So I'm just asking the question because it seems it's kind of a double-edged sword where the kids want to come to school, but if they come to school, they're going to have a chance that they might get quarantined even though they're not even really close enough. And we have seen in the past with past experiences that these are not transmitting in the school, even if they have been closer than 6 feet, and at events. So I'm just asking the question of, I know we're trying to follow the so-called, per se, the strictest parts of the guidelines, but again, some of these students that now may have to go home and quarantine, they've already lost a lot. I mean, I'm talking last year, the whole spring was gone. This year, the way things have been going, and so I'm just asking the question, because, if you're on a bus, then also everybody on that bus needs to quarantine if one kid is, because they're within 6 feet, even though they're wearing masks.
Can I just add to that?
I'm sorry, it's just, I know it's a tough situation.
Well,
and
and it
stuff,
was
but-
10 questions, so I'll try to
Well, yeah,
answer it all. Let's go for more.
But I'd like to add to that too is, yes, these kids are supposed to be in quarantine, but we all know that they're not. And number two, we have seen where we haven't been getting those positive cases with the kids being in quarantine. And we've had one student who's been quarantined 7 times this year.
Oh, wow.
So I guess I'm really concerned about how much these kids are outside of the classroom when we have the data showing that that's not being transmitted in the classrooms. I mean, and the classrooms are being quarantined even though they are being distanced by 6 feet and they're wearing masks, the whole classroom is being shut down. So I guess I question that too, to kind of go along with what
And I
Tim
want
said.
to, one of Tim's points, I think,
Write these down.
yeah, I think the biggest thing about Tim's point to me is, somebody can take as much precaution as they want outside of the school and try to be careful because graduation's coming up, prom's coming up, all their athletic events. But then when they come to school, they're actually forced to sit within 6 feet is their highest chance of maybe being quarantined. And I feel like school shouldn't be that case. They can try to be as safe as they want outside of school, but then when they come inside the school, whether it's a bus or the classroom, they are sitting within 6 feet of each other.
And I'll throw one more on there for you too. And I know we've talked about this before, I think this went back to the basketball situation too. And I feel 100% confident in even reducing stuff or having a little allowance in that too, with the fact that this whole building is protected with our bipolar ionization, our RGF hydrogen peroxide, units, and we talked about that too in the gym, how, you know, this is airborne, and it kills airborne, 99.9% effective on removing the virus, and all that stuff. So knowing that your whole building is implemented with that and protected with that, just ups that level of protection for these kids to be in here. And does reduce that risk of, you know, getting it in school. I think has there been no confirmed transmission rates in school, or, I mean, that they can tell technically?
We may have had some that we found out months later.
Right.
But who knows what's known and what's asymptomatic, so.
Yeah.
Is there other questions that you want me to answer?
Does Tim need to repeat his?
Yeah.
We'll let you answer those first.
Yeah, I won't talk long, but I will say a couple things on this point. Number one, we all understand that our community's been outstanding for our school. We could not have elementary kids in person every day without the support of our community and keeping kids home when they feel sick. So our community's been outstanding on that. And we also know that people are getting tired of COVID and, you know, and the quarantining for as many times and whatever the rules are, and we have vaccinations. And I did send out an email we did today with 16, 17, 18-year-olds. Department of Education said we need to publicize that they can start getting vaccinated. And while it's not mandatory that the school, we're never going to check or make, you know, ensure that they do, but at least give them the information, pass it on. Because we know that this is challenging times. It challenges us mentally just as much as anything else. So to a couple points. We don't get to make the rules on close contacts. And so we still, from MDH, have to do the 6 feet distance. And MDH, what's frustrating to us and to some of our parents is that that's even a little vague. When you get into, you saw not just, you know, basketball teams, whether you're talking JWP, but yeah, you probably saw basketball and hockey teams that some made the state tournament weren't allowed to play, and parents would say, well, my kid was only on the floor for 5 minutes with the supposed person who tested positive, and they would say, well, there's a high exertion rate and the particles in there, and they justify it different ways, which makes it really challenging for parents as well as us. And so we do the tracing and try and figure out where people are sitting, send the information up, communicate with MDH of who we have to quarantine, and then pass that information along. So we're in constant contact with them. In terms of a bus, again, this is where MDH has changed. They would say at the beginning of the year, for the first, 4 or 5 months, they would say, yep, if a kid was on there for more than 15 minutes, entire bus has to quarantine. They've gone down, I don't know if it was January or sometime, they would say, no, if you leave windows open an inch, which we did in the winter, and the air is circulating, then you only have to take a 6-foot radius of who's in front and who's behind you. So they've changed their ways. You also have different classrooms. I think, Katie, we both have worked in kindergarten classrooms, and we both respect our kindergarten teachers so much more now because we have. And a kindergarten classroom, and me trying to sub in there, those kids just interact with each other constantly and are around each other. And so they have typically, not just JWP, but all schools said, you know, when it comes to an elementary classrooms that are constantly interacting and being around each other and playing with each other, that they've typically isolated an entire classroom or put an entire classroom into quarantine, where high school is a little bit different, a little bit more structured, and so they're just working at that 6-foot radius around there. So there are differences, and we don't necessarily make those rules of 6 feet or not. So that's my big, I don't know if I answered every question, but I didn't mean to dodge any, I just wanted to lay some information out.
So I know a big one is the masks. If everybody's wearing a mask, why do they have to quarantine? Yep.
Yeah, and I'll answer that. I'm trying to, we all channel our inner Sonia because she is the expert and is on a ton of calls. Masking is one mitigation strategy. So it's just like hand washing is one mitigation strategy, but hand washing doesn't get the clout of, or the controversy of masks. But this is a mitigation strategy, and you have the same question that I get from other community members too. How come you're mandating masks, or how come the governor is, I should say, but yet it doesn't matter when it comes to quarantine? So that would be my answer. Sounds like Mr. Erler, our elementary principal, wants to answer again, which you'd have to come up here to speak on a mic.
Yep. I just know this has been a question.
wearing masks.
Yep.
Oh, I gotta push this button.
Yep.
Fancy. We do talk about wearing masks, but every time you walk down the hall, you're telling kids to put their masks up because they're down there below their nose. So I get that, yes, we're wearing masks, but are we wearing masks correctly? We're doing our absolute best, and I'm so proud of our students and our teachers and staff for getting through this year. However, when we say we're wearing masks, we're not wearing them 100% correctly, like we should be. We're trying, we're reminding students and everything. However, as well as we're doing, I can't say that we're doing it with 100% fidelity, doing it the way we should be doing it.
And I agree with you. I mean, you know, I see it out at work and stuff too, as far as the mask wearing. I mean, but I look at it, because when Kurt, when you brought up about the state high school league and the hockey, you know, stuff like that, where the parents, but they were going down to 7 days. If they would have played, that hockey game would have been the next day, they would have been able to play according to which is the MDH was gonna let them, MHSL was gonna let them. So my question is if we're properly wearing our masks, we're not having exertion in the classrooms, you know, because, you know, they're not bumping into each other. Why can't we at least go down to the 7 days with a test instead of the 10 and still having to have a test? I mean, because they're allowing it 7 days. I just, like I said, I just feel so bad for the seniors that now because by no choice of their own, they're in a class that they can't maintain 6 feet. And now they may lose 2 weeks of their final activities of their senior year where they already lost their whole junior year. So that's kind of a thing is like, do we have other things that we can do to help that so it doesn't happen? Especially for the last, what do we got, 6 weeks of school? 5 weeks?
29 days.
Yeah, so what, about 6 weeks? Yeah. I mean, so I'm just bringing it up because, you know, realistically, they're losing prom again. I mean, what they're doing for prom is get to walk through and then nothing, you know, so there's 2 years of prom. So juniors and seniors really never had a prom. And I'm not saying we need to have prom like we had in the past up here, I understand that, but I'm just trying to figure out what can we do for our kids to get them through the rest of this year without going, I'm within 6 feet of you and you were here for 10 minutes, so now you have to quarantine for 14 days, you know, or even 10 now. So it's just, it's a question, because, and I know it's frustrating for everybody. You guys have done a great job. I think our school's done a great job, because you can see we don't have the big outbreaks and stuff. But as we've all been discussing here for a long time, we also have to think of the kids' well-being. And geez, I mean, these seniors, they've been hacked over for a year and a third now. And I'd hate to just have them kind of, because we're trying to be so protective when there are looser guidelines out there as far as 7 days compared to 10, compared to 14. That's just my 2 cents on it. So,
Are there other practices that we can do so they don't even have to quarantine in the first place? So is it 15 minutes within 6 feet with a mask on that requires it? I mean, do we get them up and move and switch positions so we don't have anyone next to each other for more than 15 minutes? Or, I don't know,
Rotate.
just beep,
Yeah.
time to move, but.
I get the frustration, and we all know it's been challenging. Again, MDH would say it's cumulative, so it doesn't matter, you know, if you try and skirt it by saying I was there for 14 minutes and then walked away for 10 seconds and came back for another 14 minutes. So that came out, I believe, earlier this year with CDC as well, it being not a one period of time, but cumulative, 15 minutes. As far as the going down to 7 days, in talking with, again, Waseca County Public Health and MDH consultants, this was the next best step for us, and we'll evaluate how this is going. And I'll tell you today, like I said, I've gotten, I hate to put out a number just because we're a small community, but I did get many test results today from students that were negative that are returning in the near future, whether it be tomorrow or the following day. So I think this was the next best step, and we'll, like everything else, we'll evaluate what we're doing and make whatever changes we need to. And I think you saw in other communities the variant take hold and have a lot of cases in a small town, which then made people go to distance learning and shut down activities. And so we just don't want to be in that situation and yet balance, having our kids in school. So we do evaluate things on a, I don't know if it's a daily basis, but yeah, pretty much. Meet with the county and public health on a weekly basis.
Weekly? Okay, that was my question. Is how often? Okay. Any other questions? All right, thanks, Jeremy.
Thanks for answering 10 questions, Kurt.
No,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's
And-
still the
Well,
superintendent
is this
report,
something
right?
that- Would you bring Sonia in to maybe discuss some things further and, to allude to some other questions about getting closer down there or to a shorter quarantine or what can be done or maybe strategies that we could utilize to maybe
Yep.
bring those options to the table
Or could we try to protect some of our older students that don't have that much time left in their high school careers?
Yeah, we have a work session in May. Yeah, we haven't had the agenda planned out, but Laura and I can discuss it when planning the agenda. As far as seniors go, and I know, Tim, you'd shared this too, and Katie, I appreciate that. Do you want to come up for this, or do you just want me to speak on it a little bit? This is a little bit impromptu. I appreciate the questions, and this is good dialogue. So, Mr. Hanson, our high school principal, him and I have started some conversations because, no matter what, to have a senior have to quarantine on their graduation, their big time moment event at the end, it's not going to be good for anybody. But yet we might not have the ability to say that shouldn't happen. So we're trying to figure out ways to possibly prevent that. And while we don't know what that looks like, please know it's on our radar, that we're going to want to work with seniors and the teachers to ensure that everybody can walk. And it's not, as best we can. There's stuff that is out of our control. So I don't know if you have something to add to that.
I'm not sure that I have much to add, other than, we are talking about some things towards the end of the year to try to add more mitigation strategies, so to speak, with, do we give seniors the last week off? Do we give them the last week of distance learning? If they're distance learning and not here, then they don't have that structure that we provide, so they could be getting together more, like you say, outside of school. So there's a lot of factors that we are thinking about to get them through to the end of the year. That's one of my pieces that I'll be sharing at our faculty meeting this week, is let's do as much as we can to get them through all the way. But again, there's so many different things that we have to consider, so we're seeing what the best options will be, because one of my goals right now is to make sure that all of our kids are there at the end on the stage walking across. So, and if that means that, if there happens to be something that happens outside of school and a kid is quarantined, I'm sure that we can make something work socially distanced for the student to participate, but it's going to look different. And so hopefully we can do as much to keep this as traditional and normal as possible. Although last year's not normal celebration was pretty great, so I think we'll figure out one way or the other to make it work out for our kids.
Thank you.
Just want to let you know, it's on our radar, and that we'll work with our students and our teachers on what that looks like.
Sorry for bringing it up.
No,
No,
it's
it's
a good,
good.
it's a good
It went
conversation.
pretty long.
It's a good conversation, so. And it was something I was gonna ask about the email, so I'm glad you said that too, so. Any other questions, comments? Was that the end of your superintendent report?
Yes, I think it was.
Okay, so then we're on to strategic plan then.
Just 3 areas, again, Mr. Lidkey's in charge of reaching out to all 7th through 12th grade students that aren't involved in activity, checking in with them, see what their interest areas are, and figuring out how to get them involved. So he's going to be starting that in the next week, and then, work with myself and Mr. Hanson, Mr. Erler to decide how we can get more kids involved. Mr. Hanson is working with some teachers. We have some concurrent enrollment classes that are some possibilities that he's working with some teachers on, and the Bulldog Academy is going to continue for next year, which is in our strategic plan, and I'm excited about, so I'll leave it at that.
Any questions? All right, we'll move on to E, budget information. Anything you want to talk about there? I think everybody's got access to the
Yeah.
enrollment and the graph. Any questions on any of that? Okay. All right, number 7, approval of the consent agenda. As always, we can pull anything out that you wish to discuss further. Are there any clarifying questions? If not, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
That's Scott Kaminsky. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Tim Burke. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Old business, number 8. 8A, approve additional 1.0 FTE special education teacher for the 2021-2022 school year. Any discussion before we move forward with that motion? Any questions from anyone? Okay, if not, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
That's Tim Johnson. Do we have a second?
Second.
That's Scott Kaminsky. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0. 8B, approve continuation of curriculum director position for 2021-2022 and 2022-2023 school years. Is there any further discussion before we make a motion?
I guess I would like to propose that we amend this to a one-year contract to be revisited in 2020, what would that be, 2022, 23, right? Because we're 2021, 22.
So we visited in 22.
Yeah. Also, just wondering, the contract that, if this does get approved, the contract that this position had last year, are we having the same stipulations, the same language, or how is that gonna work and proceed?
It's just like our other positions where we have activities director, community ed director, buildings and grounds director, and technology director. They all fall under the same one. We have not negotiated anything for next year for any of them because we're working on non-certified, and so the plan that I have is work with our certified bargaining negotiating team from our board and work out what our stipulations are and what we're looking for those contracts, and then negotiate with them just like we do all other people.
So do all those, because those are independent contracts, so they don't necessarily have to be the same as far as number of days worked. We all know that the contract, the salary that they get are not the same. But, I mean, they don't have to have the same number of days, the same, per se, benefit type things. I mean, I know that there's certain things that do, but, or are we saying as a school that if A contract has this, B, C, and D have to have it?
Honestly, I've reviewed their contracts a number of times, and I got to take a deeper dive right before negotiations and prepare, but I would say we try to have the same benefit package for that group, just what we contribute to a single and what we contribute to a family. So there is some benefit alignment, I would say, between them and teachers. There's different amount of days built into each one. Principals are on some different amount of days, and and, community ed director. And so I would say on the work days or work year, it is a little bit different, and that's what, I would work with our negotiating team on and what our district needs, and so.
Are the only one-year contracts you have through the district coaches? Do you have any one-year contracts for,
No, coaches and, probationary staff, but
Right.
yeah,
other than that, everything's a multi-year contract, right?
yeah. And we do have, I will say that we do have community ed staff that aren't necessarily in a bargaining group.
Okay, so do we have any other questions, comments? So, how do we do that with an amendment then?
So,
We have to,
was there a first motion, or was
I-
Tim's the
well,
motion?
that's
That
what
was
I'm thinking.
discussion.
Yeah, it was just a discussion.
There hasn't been a motion
but-
yet.
Okay, so there's no motion on the
So
floor yet?
there,
Not yet.
no.
Okay.
So I guess, is there a motion to approve the continuation of curriculum director position for 21, 22, and 22, 23 school years?
I'll make a motion to approve the continuation of the curriculum director position for the 2021, 2022, 2022, 2023 school year.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right. Do I vote on that then? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 6-1. Okay, 8C, approve school district calendar adjustments with last student day of Thursday, May 27th, and last staff day of Friday, May 28th. Do we have any discussion on that? If not, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
That's Tim Johnson. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Scott Kaminsky. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0. 9, new business. Second reading of policies with substantial changes. Are there any questions on 304, 421, or 213? Okay,
I have a question on,
oh, yep.
school board committees. I noticed that 2 of them have been eliminated. I just, like buildings and grounds and activities.
Mhm.
So I was just curious about that, if there's some reason or explanation of that. I think we've had those for many years.
I think the buildings and grounds one got put
Mo-
into the finance, so it's finance and operations now,
Yeah, it's,
all in one, because they pretty much align with each other. I know the athletics one was talked about, activities ones, and there isn't a lot of many other schools that maybe have it, and NBA doesn't really have a layout for it, so we just kind of
the,
talked about.
yeah, the activities one is more because it's multiple layers under us as a school board. Because we work with Kurt, and Kurt goes with Grant, and Grant with Ryan, so I think we're so far removed from it that that's the recommendation, to remove that one.
And I think, and no offense to what was presented last year, or last time on it, but it was, well, you talked about it. But like when a report on it, it's like, well, the kids are really excited to be back in practice and excited for competition. And that was the report, and, we see all that stuff through,
Yeah.
Lakey's Facebook posts and all that stuff too, so. I don't know, we just kind of discussed on maybe the need for it, or free up some time for committee members, board members, and
And I did ask that Ryan be consulted too, because if he feels that it's a beneficial committee, that we keep it, but if it's just reiterating what he would say anyway, then
Okay,
not-
I was just curious.
yeah.
I saw it and noticed it, so.
did
Yep.
you follow up with Mr. Lutke on that?
I did.
He did.
I did, yes, and he would be fine if we don't have it. And I would echo what has already been stated, which board work is, budgets and policy, not necessarily activities, which it is a couple layers down in our chart.
Good questions, though.
Where does meet and confer fall in?
State,
That, we
Get rid of that
moved,
one too?
well, we moved the meet and confer and the MSHSL out of actual committees, because they're more of, like, an appointment as needed, if, not really a committee, because they didn't really ever meet. So, yeah.
So we never had a policy on school board committees before? Because it says new
No.
policy here. It's
Nope,
not an
we never
edited
did.
policy, it's brand new.
Yeah, and they recommend if we have any, even one committee, that we should have a policy in place, so, yeah.
When do these go into effect then, the changes?
After a third reading, after we vote on it.
Oh, yeah.
and I believe we said we're finishing out this year
Oh.
with our current structure,
Yeah,
and then this.
So July.
Yeah,
well, no, it'd be January, when we do our
Yeah.
organizational meeting is when we would do the whole new committee. So we'll finish out these committees as they are, like the athletics, and
Gotcha.
until January.
yeah, new structure.
Yep. Okay, any other questions on the policies? All right, we'll move to 9B. Approve 2021-2023 JWP EA collective bargaining agreement. Do we have any questions or further discussion first? Oh,
So
Scott,
I
yes.
will, so Mr. Tim Johnson, Mr. Tim Burke, and myself, along with, Mr. Stumpf and Mr. Moline, went through negotiations with the union, and I just came up with an agreement, that not only falls, within our board-approved, budget assumptions, but also, honors our outstanding teachers and is respectful of our budget and our taxpayers' dollars. And with that too, along with both parties operated in good faith, throughout the whole process, which is a great sign, for years to come. And I just want to thank you guys on the committee, and the teachers union. I thought it went very well, and it was a fun process, so we're glad to come up with an agreement.
Thank you. Any questions?
No, I would like to add, I guess, I've been on that committee for many years, and it always goes well, but again, it went really, really smooth this year. And I think that just shows the respect between the parties, so good things to come.
Thank you.
I concur, and we all know we are blessed to have the teachers in our district that we have. And so I just want to thank them publicly for not just their work in negotiations, but throughout this entire school year. And probably this would be a good reminder that it is Teacher Appreciation Week the first week in May as well.
Okay. All right. Any further questions? Discussion? If not, do we have a motion to approve the 2021-2023 JWP EA collective bargaining agreement?
I'll make the motion to approve
That's
2021-2023 JWP collective bargaining agreement.
That's Scott Kaminsky. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Kendra Hain. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0. 9C, approve the non-renewal of Jennifer O'Donnell as business education teacher. Do we, any discussion on that before we move? Okay, if not, do we have a motion to approve the non-renewal of Jennifer O'Donnell as business education teacher?
So,
Tim
So
Johnson, do we have a second?
I'll
Kendra?
second.
Kendra Hain. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say, oh, yep, go ahead. Oh, that's a roll call.
Sorry,
Never mind. Yep, sorry.
I was looking at the next one that So that was a
It
roll
didn't say
call.
resolution, so I
Yeah,
didn't
that's
catch,
why.
I didn't catch that, sorry.
So, I'll call out your name, just please say yay or nay. Johnson,
Yes.
Hain,
Yay.
Cahill,
Yes.
Burke. Yes.
Kaminsky,
Yay.
Size,
Yay.
Elke, yay.
Motion passes 7-0. All right, 10, approve resolution accepting donations. We have, pull them up here. Donors are Minnesota Department of Human Services for a $3,000 grant installment for SAC and wraparound funding. Another item is Judy Krupbauer for $500 for a scholarship. The Janesville Rotary, $11,250 for scholarships. Township of Meadow, $50 for JWP prom. And another Township of Meadow, $100 for community ed programming. Any questions or anything before we,
Where's the township of Meadow?
I think
It's down
that's,
by Pemberton.
yeah,
Was it?
that church, I don't know, south
There's
of
a
there
Meadow
was,
Lutheran
I think that's Meadow. Yep.
Are there any questions? So
All
this-
right, so this one is another roll call. Oh,
Hain.
wait, I
Whoop.
think we have to make a motion, though.
I thought we
So, any, do we have a motion to approve the resolution accepting donations with many thanks?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution, accepting donations with lots of thanks.
That's Tim Johnson, do we have a second?
Go ahead.
I'll second.
And that's Scott Kaminsky. Okay, now the roll call, sorry.
Hain,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Burke,
Yes.
Kaminsky,
Yay.
Size,
Yes,
Elke, yes.
all right.
Do I get to
Motion.
vote?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
Johnson,
Johnson.
sorry.
Oh, Johnson, sorry.
Follow the rules.
Yes.
Say their own words.
All right, motion passes 7-0. All right, upcoming meetings, May 3rd is study session, May 17th, the regular meeting, followed by the finance committee meeting, but that